Good day, everyone. I am Lance Noel Siray, a third year BSMT student, and I'm here to report about the Noli Tangere. So, the Noli Tangere is a novel by Dr. Jose Rizal. It was written in Spanish and published in Berlin, Germany in 1887. The Noli Tangere was first written in Madrid, Spain while Rizal was studying medicine. He continued it in France and finished it in Wilhelmshaven, Germany from April to June 1886. Rizal was sick and penniless and had no hope of publishing the novel. Here comes Maximo Viola, who saved the Noli Tangere by lending Rizal with money for the publication and the payment for his expense. The Noli Tangere was published in March 21, 1887. He sent the first copies to Blumentritt, his friend. The goal of the author, or Rizal, in writing this novel is to defend the Filipino people from foreign accusations of foolishness and lack of knowledge, to show how Filipino lived during the Spanish colonial period, and the cries and woes of his countrymen against abusive officials, to discuss what religion and belief can do to everyday life, and to expose the cruelties, corruptions, and false government that honestly shows Filipinos' wrongdoings that led to failure futures. The Noli Tangere was subdivided into 63 chapters. Each are simultaneous from one another and explores the lives of different characters embedded into a single time frame and has interconnections. The plot revolves around Crisostomo Ibarra, a mixed-race heir of a wealthy clan returning home after 7 years in Europe, and filled with ideas of how to better the loss of his countrymen. Striving for reforms, he is confronted by an abused ecclesiastical hierarchy and the Spanish civil administration, by turns indifferent and cruel. The novel suggests that to tough plot development, that meaningful change in context is extremely difficult, if not impossible.
Crisostomo Ibarra, also known as Juan Crisostomo Ibarra y Magsalin Ibarra, a wealthy young mestizo who was just returned to the Philippines after 7 years of studying in Europe, the love interest of Maria Clara. Elias, Ibarra's mysterious friend, a master boater, also a fugitive. Elias is a man on the run from the law who resents both the Spanish colonial government and the Catholic Church, despite his strong religious convictions. Maria Clara de los Santos, Ibarra's sweetheart, the legitimate daughter of Father Damaso and Pia Alba. She represents true loyalty and religiosity of the woman in real Filipino society. Father Damaso, also known in his full name, Damaso Verdolagas, a friar and Maria Clara's biological father. He is an old, power-hungry, and shamelessly corrupt Spanish priest who has lived among the native Filipinos for nearly 2 decades. Sisa, the mother of Basilio and Crispin, who became insane after losing his sons. Captain Chago, Don Santiago de los Santos, the known father of Maria Clara. He represented a businessman who used his money to work for him even in religious life and obligations. Filosofong Casio, Don Anastasio, pessimistic and mad by his neighbors. He portrays the role of a philosopher who was completely misunderstood in many aspects. He argues with the belief of the Catholic Church and the social changes and concerns. Doña Victorina de los Reyes de Espadaña, a woman who poses herself as a Peninsulares, wife of Don Tiburcio de Espadaña, a trying hard rich woman who abhors anything that is Filipino and clings for Spanish way of life. This kind of character was manifested in some Filipinos at that time. Don Rafael Ibarra, Crisostomo Ibarra's father, a concerned citizen and property owner, a critic of the corrupt practice of the Spanish friars. He earns the ire of the vitriolic Father Damaso, who accuses him of sedition and heresy. Crispin, the younger son of Sisa, who died from the punishment of the soldiers from the false accusation of stealing an amount of money. Basilio is Crispin's older brother and the elder son of Sisa. Padre Salvi, also known in his full name Bernardo Salvi, a secret admirer of Maria Clara, the younger, more cunning Spanish priest who assumes control over Father Damaso's post as friar, curate of San Diego. Don Tiburcio de Espadaña, Spanish husband of Doña Victorina, who was limp and submissive to his wife. A fraud and a hustler, the Spaniard who calls himself Dr. Tiburcio de Espadaña was actually a customs officer who was dismissed from his post shortly after arriving in the Philippines.
Rizal was determined to return to the Philippines for various and important reasons. Near midnight of August 5, 1887, Rizal arrived in Manila aboard Haipong, On August 8th, he returned to Calamba to rejoice with his family, but this did not last long because of the fire's imminent threat for his life. On February 3, 1888, Rizal sailed to Hong Kong on board Zafiro and stayed inside the ship during his short stay at Amoy. He stayed in Victoria Hotel in Hong Kong and visited Macau along with a friend, Jose Maria Basa. From Hong Kong, he reached Yokohama, Japan, on February 28 and proceeded to Tokyo the next day. He lived in the Spanish legation in Tokyo upon the invitation of its secretary, Juan Perez Caballero. But if there were a person who was truly entertained at the time, it was Jose Rizal himself, who was amused by the Japanese girl who used to pass by the legation every day. The 23-year-old Seiko Usui, whom he fondly called Jose-san, became his tour guide and sweetheart rolled into one. He then departed on April 13, 1888 aboard the Belgic, an English steamer bound for the United States. He befriended a passenger on board named Techo Suehiro, a Japanese journalist, novelist, and a champion of human rights. He arrived on April 28, 1888 and visited San Francisco, New York, and other places. On May 16, 1888, he left New York for Liverpool on board the City of Rome and arrived on May 25. Rizal lived in London from May 1888 to March 1889. He chose this English city because of three reasons. One, to improve his knowledge of the English language. Two, to study and annotate Morga's Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas, which he heard to be available in the British Museum. And three, London was a safe place from the attacks of Spanish tyranny. He then spent his Sundays at the house of Dr. Reynold Ross, the librarian of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and an authority on Malayan languages and customs. For 10 months, Rizal was deeply immersed in historical studies in London. On December 11, 1888, he went to Spain visiting Madrid and Barcelona. He contacted his compatriots and surveyed the political situation. For the first time, he met Marcelo H. del Pilar and Mariano Ponce, the two titans of propaganda movement. He exchanged ideas with these new friends and promised to cooperate in the fight for reforms. Rizal also fell in love with one of the three Beckett sisters, Gertrude. Gertrude Beckett was Jose Rizal's love interlude in London. On March 19, 1889, Rizal bade goodbye to the Beckett family and left London for Paris. He was sad as he crossed the English Channel, for he cherished many beautiful memories in London.
Continuation of Rizal's meaningful travel. His next stop was in Paris. There he had a joyful time in the lively city of France because of the ongoing exposition. During one time, Rizal, together with Kidlat Club, was amazed by the proud American Indians. He told his friends, "They are not ashamed of their name. Let us be like them." While in Paris, Rizal also founded the RDLM Society, or the Redemption de los Malayos, in English, Redemption of the Malays, which aims for the propagation of all useful knowledge in the Philippines and the redemption of the Malay race. Later on, Rizal left Paris for Brussels, due to the high cost of living and also because the joyful life in the city hampered his literary works. In Brussels, Rizal was busy writing his second novel, El Filibusterismo. Aside from writing his chapters, he also wrote articles for the La Solidaridad. Then Rizal went to Madrid. Rizal's life in Madrid could be described as full of misfortunes because of the terrible news from the Philippines that reached him. Rizal then took a vacation in the resort city of the fabulous French Riviera of Biarritz. It was in Biarritz where he had finished the last chapter of his second novel, El Filibusterismo. Rizal also retired from the propaganda movement and retired also from the La Solidaridad. In Gent, Rizal was not capable of publishing the El Filibusterismo because of his financial difficulties, until Ventura came to rescue and made the publication successful. After the publication of El Filibusterismo, Rizal left Europe for Hong Kong. It was until May 1892 that Rizal made up his mind to return to Manila.